Hey guys, Jacob Scott, Lowrance product expert. And again, welcome to our Thursday night webinars. Tonight we're going to be covering mapping, charting, how to use it on your units. We're going to cover everything from the hook reveal to the Ti2 and also a lot of the features that are on the mapping on the Lowrance HDS Live. Today we're doing things a little bit different. You know, restrictions have started lifting around the country. We are actually out on the lake. We were going to show you a lot of features to use while you're on the water. We had a storm roll in on us, so we kind of tucked in here to one of the marinas close to us, and we're going to sit in here. Maybe if the rain lightens up and disappears while we're shooting this, we can get out and we can show you features actually on the water like structure mapping and things like that. So why are we here? Well, just like you and everybody else. Man, we've been stuck at home. We've been itching to get on the water. You know, we've all been working from the house and doing what we need to do to get through this. If you guys have had a chance to get out, don't forget, take your photos, send it to us, hashtag Anglers Unite on our Lowrance Facebook page. And again, we're going to keep doing these webinars. Don't forget to log in and post your questions. We're going to have our product experts and our product management team on the line in the chat boxes. They're going to answer questions for you. Some of these questions are going to get thrown over to me and we're going to answer them live on the air. So what do you say we go ahead and get started and dig into this? The first thing we're going to look at and talk about is the charting on our hook reveal units. Now I got to tell you guys, the charting on this unit is pretty amazing. And especially for like an entry-level unit, it's probably the greatest charting you're going to find. You can see, we're going to zoom in here. This lake, this map has a lot of 1-foot contours on it. So, you know, we've got a lot of lakes, 1-foot contours. It's really amazing as far as that goes. It doesn't really have any coastal coverage on that. So if you're going to be using this in a coastal region, you're going to want to use a charting card for that. But for most people, you're not going to need a charting card for this unit because the charts are so amazing. Like I said, let's look around. You know, we've done a few things. We've a lot of 1-foot contours on here. We have creek channels, river channels marked, things like ponds and flooded lakes that are underneath the lake that were there previously. We got a lot of that stuff. You can see this fish symbol here. That shows that that's one of the fishing hotspots, so to speak, on here. Typically, the Department of Wildlife here in Oklahoma puts out a lot of fish attractants and things like that. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've gotten that information from them, and we're adding that to these charts so that you can see all of this information. It's really great to use on the water. One of the features that you won't be able to do with the hook reveal, like I said, because it's one of our entry-level units, is you won't be able to do photo overlays on that. And when we talk about photo overlays, that's where you see some of these maps that they have high-resolution photos that show details of the lake. You know, it shows satellite overlay, satellite imagery of the lake and the area around the lake and things like that. So you cannot do that on the hook reveal units. Next thing we're going to talk about is our Elite Ti2 units. Now these units are really good as far as the charting goes. We had put a really great chart in them, but the best thing about these units is they have the ability to use our HD maps. So a couple of the maps that we use a lot are CMAP Lake Insight Pro. Now this map is really great because it has pretty much coast-to-coast coverage. It even has a little bit of coastal areas covered, so if you need a map, this inland and coastal card is really great. The one thing it does not have is like the satellite imagery. Typically this card's not going to have it, but it's actually going to give you a lot of data that covers the entire United States and coastal regions. For the guys that want the satellite imagery, we have the CMAP Lake Insight HD card. Now on these cards you have to make sure when you buy it that you purchase it for the right region. So here in Oklahoma, this is the Central South region. As you can see, it's right here on the card. It's marked that. There's 2, 4, 5 regions that we use on these. Again, these have a lot of high definition satellite imagery on them, so you can go in and do the satellite overlay. You can look at that. So, and actually I'll show you guys right now on the Elite Ti2 unit. If I hit chart options, photo overlay, you can see right here it's turned off. But if I turn it on, you have 2 options of land only and full. So if I turn on land only, you can see it just brings up the land around the lake area. And when you turn it on full, it actually brings up the body of water also. So as you can see with this satellite overlay, you can see the water, you can see the land around it, and you can also see the contour lines, and you can see these little blue dots are obstructions underwater. A lot of times they're going to be foundations and things like that. So again, that's what it looks like with it turned off. That's what it looks like turned on. So it's a great feature that you can look at and kind of get an idea of sometimes how the water lays under these points from the satellite imageries. Things like that, they're really useful while you're out here fishing. So another thing we're going to talk about is the orientation on these maps and charts. As you can see, this unit's in north up. So what that does is when the unit's on the boat, north is always going to be at the top of the screen. The other way that we use these a lot is heading up, which the direction you're heading is at the top of the screen. And again, we're going to talk about that more as we slide down to our HDS units. So looking down here at my HDS Live unit, as you can see, we got a lot of great contours on here. And the reason I have that is we kind of told you yesterday we had something new coming out. We have new charting coming out for our HDS Live units. This charting is called our Precision Contours is one of our other maps that we have, but this is our Contours Plus. So this is new charting over 8,000 lakes, 1 foot contours, high definition, things like brush showing up, you know, flooded timber. We show all of those features on the map. So it's really great. Again, let me zoom in here. You can look at these 1 foot contours. Look at the details we have. So I can show you. Well, I don't have that card in here, so sorry about that. But again, 1 foot contours, it's really amazing. Sorry. But this is coming soon to all of our units. So new units will be shipping out with this charting on them. That'll come out soon. But for the guys that have bought units, so anybody that's purchased units from April 1st to August 31st, you can, and you register your units, you'll be able to send in the rebate form and get this card for free. We also have the ability to purchase this card for $35 for the HDS Live users who are registered. So that gives them the HDS Live users that have registered their card have the ability, that have registered their unit, have the ability to purchase the card for $35. So let's go ahead and step on over, and we're going to talk about our basic setup and usage on these units. Again, one of the first things that we talked about just a minute ago is our map orientation. So if we look under the options right here, more options, orientation, you can see this one's set in heading up. So we had 3 ways it's set up. We have north up, we have heading up, and then we have course up. So basically the difference between those, like I just kind of told you a minute ago, north up, the top of the map is always north. So you're going to be heading whichever direction in the map, north is always going to be at the top. A lot of guys that use this are going to be the guys that are old chart guys that are used to using this type feature, guys that are used to using being out on saltwater. Guys that are out, they always want to know which way the north is versus where they're facing. So instead of having to look for the little compass arrow in the top of the screen, they use the north up feature. That way they know which way they're heading. Now a lot of guys that use these use the heading up feature. What this does is it allows the user, while we're driving, the direction we're heading is going to be at the top of our chart screen. So while we're moving around, we'll always be showing the top of the screen. That way we know where we're heading. We can see any obstructions that are coming on the chart. If we're heading to a specific area, we can see that. So then the other one we have is course up. Now this feature is used a lot by guys that have autopilots and features like that, because what it does is it rotates things just a little bit differently. If they've got a heading set, they'll be running that way, and as the course changes, the map's going to rotate the course direction that they're headed. So it's essentially like heading up, but again, when you're running a course that you've set for autopilots or features like that, it gives you the ability to run that course and that course be at the top of your map. So let's talk a little bit about trails on these units. So as you can see, this unit has a lot of trails showing on it right here. This is a lake I spend a lot of time at. This is right here by my house. I do a lot of fishing here. We test a lot of product here. You guys have seen quite a few of our simulator files. You'll see that they've come from this lake because this lake has a lot of awesome features in it. A lot of man-made structure that's been flooded. It's got road beds, it's got bridge culverts, it's got a lot of great features that we like to show off on our structure scan and our down scan, and it usually holds a lot of fish, so it's really nice when we get to show you that sort of stuff. As you can see, I've got a lot of trails here, so let's talk about managing these trails a little bit. If I hit my Pages button, I go to my waypoints on the screen. You can see it says waypoints, routes, and trails. So we're really concerned about the trails. That's what we're talking about right now. As you can see, I've got trail 001. It tells you how many points it's got on it. And basically points are like your breadcrumbs. They show you where you've been. They'll drop every so often. You can change the intervals on that, but for the most part, we just leave it set how it is and you shouldn't have any issues. So the things that you can do is you can turn a trail on to be displayed and to be recorded. So the difference between that is if I turn off display, when we go back to the screen, you can see my trails that I've got here are not showing. Go ahead and go back and I can turn that back on. There's my trails back. So I haven't lost the trails. I can just take them off the screen to declutter my screen if I want to. So the other thing is to record a trail. So what this does is as long as record is turned on, even if display is turned off, it's going to continue dropping those breadcrumbs on the trail so that it's always going to be leaving the trail where I've been driving. We can also change the color on the trail. You can see right here, you can select any of these options. What that does is that gives you the ability to go in and name a new trail. So let's just say we're going to start a new trail. I want to turn the record off on that one. My new trail, I'm going to hit new. This is going to be trail number 2, or I can name the trail if I want to. So a lot of guys, especially tournament fishermen, they like to do things, and you know, when they're out pre-fishing, they're going to be running around 2, 3, 4 days at a time. So they'll name the trail for whatever day they ran. That way they can see where they went. So let's just call this one there we go. We call this one Thursday. And then as you can see, it's automatically selected a different color than what I was using for the previous trail. I can select whatever color I want. We'll go ahead and leave it blue. You can give it a description if you want to. So that way I could say Thursday Lake Skytook. If I'd been pre-fishing for a tournament out here, I know what it's going to be. So now I'm going to have it display the trail and it's going to be turned on. I hit the save button. As you can see, this new trail now shows up at the top of my screen. We don't have any plot points in it yet because we're not moving anywhere. So once I'm done running this trail, the easiest thing for me to do, if I'm going to want to start a new one the next day, I just turn that one off. I can leave it displayed. That way, as I'm running around looking at other places to fish, I know where I've been. Or I can leave it turned on to record. So those are a few of the easy things to do on it. Now we were talking about being able to change your breadcrumb type. This is in our logging section. So if you saw there, I hit setting, and then for the logging, I can tell it auto, which is typically what everybody's going to want to leave it on. I can select distance, where it's set right now every 1.5 miles. It will drop a breadcrumb. I can change that value so that it drops them more often if I want to. And if I select time, you can see my time period is shown up. 5 seconds, 1 second, 1 minute. So you can change that around to whatever you want on that. So again, like I said, I leave mine on auto. It's typically around every 5 to 10 seconds that we drop the breadcrumb on that. And it doesn't fill up your memory really quickly on it. So that's one thing about running a lot of trails. The trails that you put on your unit, they also take up the same amount of space that's used for saving waypoints and things like that. So again, this is a feature that typically I would want to leave on auto. On most of my units, as you can see, things don't get changed a whole lot. So we've turned on the trails, we've turned off trails. Now if you want to delete a trail, like I said, this trail's a really long trail. It's been on here for a while. The Thursday trail, I can just touch that one if I want to delete that one. If I said show, it'll show up on my screen and it'll show me where the trail starts. But if we go to this trail, the easiest thing to do to delete them is just hit delete. And then it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to delete the trail? You say yes, and the trail disappears. So as you can see, we have one feature on here called color trails. Now if I touch this, what color trails does is it allows me to select colors on my unit for the trails that I'm running based on my speed. So if I tell it for the source for my speed over ground, I tell it OK. And then I can set my high parameters and my low parameters. So if I tell this 0.1 is my low parameter, let's just say 25 miles per hour is my high parameter. So what that does is that'll allow any trails that I run now, it'll give them a color code and it'll show it based on the speed. And I use that a lot if I'm fishing and things like that. It gives me the ability to see where I've slowed down, so I can set my colors to green or red and things like that. So if I've got my slow part set at red, what that allows me to see just by looking at the map and the trails I've created, that if I came up to a spot and my trail goes red, that means that's a spot where I slowed down and I was either looking or fishing. And if my trail's green, that means that's an area where I was just running across the lake. So I didn't really see anything there that I wanted to fish, or I'm just traveling. It's a transition point, and it's not a spot that I'm typically fishing. But the color trails are really great. Again, it's just one of those tools that you can use when you go back later on to look at your units and go, I remember that spot over there, what was I doing? You can look at it and you go, oh yeah, that's where I slowed down and, you know, I was fishing over there. You'll probably wind up having some waypoints when you see your red spots on the trails if you're using color trails. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my chart options. This is where we go in and we can do really, really cool things on these units. So again, we did the photo overlay earlier. This unit does not have a card in it with photo overlay on it. I will actually, let me just move that card down here. I'm going to put this card in the unit. This is my Lake Insight HD card. You can see down here at the bottom of the screen it says it's loading my chart. So a lot of these HD cards, they'll take a minute or two to load up because there is a lot of data on it. Like I said, we were talking about, it's got the satellite imagery that's on the card. So again, all of this information takes a little bit of time to load up. It pops up on the screen and asks me if I want to use this chart, and I'm going to tell it yes. So as you can see, it gives me my photo overlay option. I'm going to go ahead and come over here. We're going to turn it on full, and as you can see, like I said, we're sitting in a marina right now. But if we can scroll around here and we come out here and we can look, we can see, you know, we can see this dam area. So if you're fishing and you've had really good luck fishing riprap, you can see the riprap on this dam area. It lets you know that there's riprap there that you can fish. If we scroll along over here and we move over here, this Highway 20 bridge right in here, as you can see, again, it's a dam area. It's got a lot of riprap. So if you're looking to fish riprap, this photo overlay option helps you find this stuff, and it gives you the ability to get in there and fish what you're looking for. Go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to go ahead and switch us back to the Contours Plus chart that we were looking at earlier. So we've talked about color trails. Let's go ahead and talk about a few other features that this is really awesome on the units. So one thing I like is this measure feature. So when I touch that measure feature, it gives me the ability, I know that if I want to say move across here to this point and fish a point or something like that, if I touch that, and say finish measuring, it gives me the distance. So as you can see, it's about a 1/4 mile across here to this point if I wanted to go fish that point. So that's, you know, one of the really cool features of the measure option. You can use the find button on here, and you can go, if you hit waypoints, it gives you your waypoints list. So if you've got a specific waypoint named, you can go in there and find and just go to that waypoint so that you can, you know, go to that waypoint. If I said number 2, it gives me the distance to where it is. I can hit show, and it takes me to where that waypoint is on my map so that I can see that. Hit clear cursor, it's going to take us back here. Again, let's go into find. So if I had routes and trails, now on some other lakes you can do stuff like look for a fuel spot if you're needing fuel. As you can see, it tells us that we're right here by a couple of fuel spots. So that's pretty helpful when you're on the water. And another thing that's really good is coordinates. Now this gives you the ability, if you've got a buddy that's out fishing and he says, hey, you know, fishing's really hot right here, here's my coordinates. You can actually key these coordinates in. Whatever numbers they give you, you key them in, you hit OK, and it takes you directly to that spot. So let me show you how that works. If I pick a spot here, so I go in and I go to 36, 20, 503, and then the west coordinates are going to be 96, 06, 858, and I say OK. Tell it OK. Now it pulls up on my chart right where those coordinates are. Now as you can see, this is a good little spot. It's got some ponds that were flooded in here. It's got these little dashed lines, as you can see, those are some road beds that were here previously before the lake was flooded. So this shows us a lot of features that gives us the ability to go in and just find these spots and fish with our buddies. So the next thing we want to talk about is the overlays. So we have a lot of overlays that are great to use on these units. We have a weather overlay, which if you have Sirius XM satellite connected on your boat and a subscription, you can see what the weather looks like. So again, you can see if a storm cell's moving at you. It gives you the ability, a lot of times when we're out on the water and we're looking at the weather options, we can use it to run around and avoid rain and storm cells. So structure overlay is one of my favorite features I like to use, and it's a search tool. Unfortunately right now, since we're sitting here, I'm not going to be able to show you a lot, but if the rains lighten up, we'll be able to get out on the water. So you can see it gives you the ability to overlay your structure scan on your chart. We've got the transparency set at 3. Contrast is around 50%. So actually, it looks like the rain might be lightening up. So if we get a minute here, we will step back and show that to you. I think we're actually going to go ahead and just pull out. Looks like we can get out of here now. So let me untie the boat. Going to go ahead and fire it up. So again, like we talked about, we're in a marina here. There's a lot of stuff to see. We go back to our chart. I'll slide this out of the way. So now as we drive around in here, it's a great feature. It gives you the ability that while you're driving around, if you're looking for spots to fish, you don't necessarily want to turn your chart off while you're looking around. You just turn on your structure map while you're driving around. It gives you the ability to look at your structure scan and your chart at the same time. As you can see, if you look in here close, you can still see we have our contour lines that are showing out here. So it gives the ability to fill in that data. We're just going to slide through here a little bit. And like I said, as we drive along, it starts filling in the data. You can see it's kind of smeared right here where we sat for a while. And now as we move out, it starts to fill in that data. It overlays it. You can see we're in a marina. You can see a lot of ley lines where these docks are tied down. You can see some flooded timber out here. It's just really great. Like I said, it's a search tool. It gives you the ability to look around without having to turn your chart off. You can see on the chart where you're going, the things that you're looking at. We're going to actually speed up just a little bit over here. I'm in this marina quite a bit. There's a couple of boats over here that have been sunk in storms and stuff like that. So we're going to drive over the top of them, and you can see them on the structure map. It's, like I said, it's just kind of cool. And it gives you the ability to kill two birds with one stone while you're out searching on the water. Gives you the ability to look for structure, look for targets that you might want to fish. It also gives you the ability to relate to where it is on the map. Again, we're still showing our contour depth, so you can see your contour lines. Because we had the transparency set where it is, you can still see all of that data on the screen. I'll slide around right here by this boat dock. You can see again, like we talked about, this was a man-made lake. There's a lot of flooded timber in here. You can see some of the tie-off blocks and things like that that they use to moor the ends of these boat docks out here. So we start sliding right through here. Right here, you can see where this sunken boat is. Again, finding these, there's another one right here. So they're kind of head to head right in here. So again, just a cool feature that we like to use a lot when we're out here moving around the water, looking for structure, looking for areas to fish. So the next overlay that I'm going to show you, and again, this is real quick. Not a lot of you guys use radars, but if those boats that have a radar, this boat has a Halo 24 on it, so it gives me the ability to transmit. And then as you can see, the land masses and stuff like that start showing up around the boat. The heat map overlay is one we use a lot. It's great springtime when we're looking for the different water temperatures. It leaves a trail behind your boat that shows the different water temperatures as you're driving through it. So if we're in cooler water, let's actually go to my heat map options. We have different palettes, so you can have your cooler water is a green color and your hotter water is a red color. That's typically how I do it. Some guys, especially guys in the ocean, like to use the blue palette so that they can show the darker blue for their cooler water. But again, like I said, this is the one I use a lot of times where my hotter water is showing a red color and my cooler water is showing a green color. Now what this is great for and what it's used for a lot of times is as we're driving around, like I said, we're looking for those areas to fish. And especially in the springtime and stuff, when you're looking for that change in water temperature for the spawn and that sort of stuff. So when you find where those water temperatures are coming up quicker, those bass are going to start moving in there to spawn. So this gives you the ability to find those areas where the water's getting warmer faster, and you can go through and just kind of look at your chart and see those. And then we're going to talk about Genesis Live. This is one of the greatest features that we've added in recent times. Genesis Live gives you the ability to create live charts on your unit while you're driving around. So as you can see, we're going in here. It's taking readings from my sonar and it's overlaying them on the map, showing them the contours. So as we move throughout the water, it shows we're set right now, it looks like for 1 foot contours. In my Genesis Live option, we have contour intervals. So it's set at medium, which is 1 foot. And if I set it at high, it gives me half-foot contours. Now this is really, really good if you get on a lake that doesn't have a whole lot of changes in depth. There's a lot of lakes out there that are like that. The depth is pretty much, doesn't change a whole lot, you know. They're man-made lakes, they don't have a lot of depth change. So those 6-inch contour lines are really great because we all know that those fish like to hang on any type of transition and contour change and depth change. So it's a free feature on the Lowrance units. It works with the hook reveal, the Elite Ti2, and our HDS models. It also works with the TIs. So most of our line has the ability to do this feature. And it's great because if you go to a lake that's not charted, if the map comes up and it just shows the outline of the lake, you can turn this on while you're on that lake and you can create your own contour maps based on what you want. Half-foot depth contours, 1 foot depth contours, 5-foot depth contours. So you can change it to set it how you want it. And it's a free feature. It is built into these units. So all you have to do is either, number one, have a blank card in the unit, or one of our Lowrance mapping cards, a CMAP card, a Lake Insight card, any card like that. That gives you the ability to create these maps on your chart, on the water, real time. It's also a handy feature if you're at a lake that, let's say, we've had a lot of rain and the water levels have come up 5 feet. You can use this to get accurate contour lines on your chart live while you're on the water. And all you have to do, blank card or one of our mapping cards with space on it, put it in there, go to your overlays, and turn on Genesis Live. It's that simple to use. So we've talked about some trails. We've talked about how to create your trails. We've talked about erasing trails, all sorts of stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about waypoints. So there's several ways that you can do it. One, you can hit on screen and say new waypoint, and it's going to make it right where you are at the vessel. You can hit save, and as you can see, the default red, green, or blue dot pops up on the screen. Another thing that you can do to create a waypoint is you can touch the screen at the cursor and say new waypoint. That's how you do it from your charting screen. A couple other ways you can do it is if you just hit the waypoint key on the unit, it's going to create the waypoint where we are at the vessel. And if I scroll on the screen and I touch this, leave the cursor up on the screen and I hit waypoint, then it's going to create the waypoint at my cursor. So those are just a couple of quick ways that you can do it from the charting page. The other ability that you have as far as creating waypoints is when you're looking at your structure screens or your 2D sonar screens. If you see something that you like, you can touch it, put the cursor on it, and you can create a waypoint on that spot. So I just created that waypoint. You can see right here, it popped up on my screen. 73, the cursor shows up on the screen. So again, just these are ways to create waypoints on the fly on your screen. Okay, so now let's start talking about custom shading on these units. So this is an awesome feature that we have. You have to use a card to do it. So if you have our new Contour Plus card, the Lake Insight HD, the Lake Insight Pro, you can create custom shading on your unit. So we're on a charting screen. I'm actually going to zoom out on this one a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and turn these trails off so that you're not seeing them and that I'm not recording them. So with the card in here, I go to more options and then I go to my chart options. Scroll down towards the bottom of it and you can see where it says shading. When I touch that, you can see it says depth 1, depth 2. So if I turn on depth 1, you don't see a whole lot right here, but now that it's popped up, you can see I've got this set up. This is a feature that I use a lot. It gives us the ability to work the water, and it helps me find productive water. If I know I'm finding fish in a certain depth, I'm going to show you. This is how we create it. It doesn't have to be turned on to create it, but I've got it turned on to use it. But if I go to custom, this brings up my depth palette screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and touch down here just so you can see. At 0 feet, I've set it as red. Red means danger to me, so 0 feet is not a good place to run into. My next color at 5 feet I've set as orange. At 10 feet I've set it yellow. At 20 feet I know I should be pretty safe to run however I want to, so I've got that at green. 40 feet I've selected white, light blue at 75, and then a dark blue at 150. So that gives me the ability to come in here, look at these screens, and I can easily see. I mean, look right here. You can see where this point comes way out here. So another great thing that I like about it is the fact that when I set my colors up, they don't make a harsh change from one depth to the next. As you can see, they kind of work out in a gradient and they start to change colors nice and easy so that you can see where those transitions and things like that are as far as the custom shading goes. You can set these up for whatever type of water you like to fish. You can set the color palettes up however you want to. It's really great. Let's go ahead and go back in here. We're going to go into shading. We're going to go to custom. I'm going to go to color palette number 2. I touch the palette. It gives me my depth at 0. I'm going to go ahead and start that red. That's just, again, for me, that's kind of one of my safety colors. I know that at 0 feet, I should not be driving there. I go to the next one. It's preset at 40, but all I have to do to change it is touch the screen. Let's say I want to set that at 5 feet. Okay. We set that as green. Because let's say it's springtime, the fish are up shallow. So I set 5 feet because that's where I've started doing a lot of catching. So I know I'm starting to catch my fish at about 5 feet. And I'm catching them in from 5 to 12 feet of water. So my next color that I want to make is, let's say, purple. So green to purple I know is going to be my good fishing zone for the pattern that I'm on and that I've been fishing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out to my next one. We're going to set that at 20 feet. We're going to leave that at, we're going to change that to white. And then this one, we're going to say set that at 40 feet, not 400, 40 feet. And we're going to set that as a dark blue. So if I wanted to add any more depth points on this chart, I can just by hitting add point, and then I select my depth, my color, and hit OK. I don't want to set anything else. I'm good with what I've done here. So I know from the green to the purple is the depth range where I've been catching a fish on this pattern. So if I go in here, I turn off depth 1 and I turn on depth 2. Come in here and I start looking at the chart. So now we can see where my productive areas are. Again, 0 feet is red. Zero is red, 5 is orange, 10 is yellow, and green is 20. Right, I looked at the wrong palette. There we go. Red is 0, 5 is green to 12 feet to the purple. So as you can see, it makes that transition. It shows us 0, and then as we start moving into the green, you can see the colors start to change, the 2, the 3, the 4. Once we get to the 5 foot, it's that green color I selected. Then as we move down, the 8, all the way into the 12 where it gets to purple, I know at 20 feet my water's become unproductive, so I've got it marked in white, and then anything deeper than the 40 feet is out in blue, so it's just area that I'm not even looking. So as you can see, if I'm just looking at this on the chart, I can see I've got a nice little flat in here that comes up. It gives me a drop off. It's going to be a good area if it's as productive as my other areas have been. So instead of having to drive around the entire lake looking for these spots, I can now look at my map and go, hey look, there's another area that's giving me the pattern that I've been looking for, where I've been catching fish. I've got a nice big open flat in here in the 5 to 12 foot range. You know, it's a little bit shallower up there, but it gives me the ability to go in here and just, again, eliminate parts of the lake without having to drive over them and go look and see, just based on the color patterns that I've set up that have been successful for me on this chart. So that's how the color shading works on this. And again, you have to have a chart card in here to use this feature. So it's not built into the units directly. As you can see, we were talking about the on the Contour Plus chart. You can see here we've got this flooded timber. See these little hash marks? This shows like flooded timber and brush and stuff like that. So it lets me know that if I'm coming into this area, I'm going to need to be really careful because there's going to be a lot of stumps and stick-ups and things like that in the water. Let's go ahead and go back. We're going to talk a little bit more about when we create waypoints and things like that, on how detailed that you can get. So if I go ahead and I select my waypoint key, if I want to put a waypoint here, all I have to do is where it's automatically numbers, I can go in here and I can give it a name if it's something specific. If there's a rock pile here that I found, I can just name it like Rock 1. I hit enter. So now I've named it. I've got my coordinates. Now, one of the cool features that we can do, if you look, I hit my little drop down menu where the blue dot is, and it gives me the ability to go in here. And I can also select the rock waypoint. So this lets me know that there's rocks there, so that I have a visual on my chart that tells me there's a rock pile there. It's not just a waypoint with with the number. So I can also go in here, if I select more options, this gives me the ability to add notes in here, like let's say caught a 5-pound smallie. So now I know I caught a 5-pound smallie off this. I can add all kinds of information in here also. Let's say on this rock pile, I caught it on a peanut butter and jelly jig. So now that I know that, that gives me the ability to come back in here. If I know I'm going to come to this spot, I can come in here and look at that waypoint and go, I can just touch it from the screen. I can go to rock 1. Now I know I've come in here and I've caught a 5-pound smallmouth on a peanut butter and jelly colored jig. So there's a lot of great abilities that you can do with your waypoints and being able to name them and put that information in there to look at later. Okay, Mike, so your question was on the Contour Plus mapping, the new charts that we have available. If you've purchased one after April 1st and you register your HDS live unit, you get the map card with the Contour Plus data for free. So there's no charge if you bought it after April 1st. We give you the ability to go ahead and go and get that card. Again, all you have to do is register your unit. Okay, so another question was if we could explain the benefits of the different types of CMAP chips. I know it's really confusing for a lot of you guys. So again, this is the CMAP Lake Insight Pro HD card. This one's the HD card. So this card, again, is based on regions. You want to make sure that you buy the card for the correct region. It has a lot more detailed data on it. It has the satellite overlay, the photo overlays. It gives you the ability, like we showed earlier, with this card in. If I go back to this card, and I turn my photo overlay on, and I look at the full overlay, I'm showing the overlay on the land. Chart options. Turn my shading off on this so we can show the photo overlays. So sometimes when you go in to show those photo overlays, if you got your custom shading done, it'll show over the water. So if we're wanting to look at the photo overlay, I typically turn my custom shading off so that we get the good image of the water to be able to look at here and see the things that we're looking for. Again, this is using one of the Lake Insight HD cards. Now, on the back of these cards, it's got a map and it shows the regions. So when you're looking for one of these cards, make sure that you buy the right card for the region that you're either fishing in or that you live in. The next thing we're going to talk about is the CMAP Insight Pro card. So this card is inland and coastal mapping. Again, this card covers, if you look at the map right there, it covers the entire United States and coastal regions. So this card gives you the ability to pretty much travel anywhere with one card instead of having to buy specific cards for the region. Now this card does not have the photo overlay option on it, so you won't be able to go in and do the satellite imagery and things like that with this card. But you will be able, it has a lot of information on it. One of the things that we do is, especially for the lakes and stuff you're in, we provide some data as to what type of fishing is in that region, what type of fish you should be looking for. So that's a great card. Again, this is a great card if you're going to be traveling around a lot of places, if you're going to travel across the country. It gives you high definition contours, so you have a lot of lakes on here with 1-foot contours and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the difference between our charting options as far as that goes. So anyhow, if you guys have any more questions, like I said, if you're on the chat, go ahead and log in. We've got our experts and our product management guys. We're all on there answering questions. So let's go ahead and we're going to drive around a little bit. We're going to clear the cursor. Now, when we were talking about heading up and things like that earlier, this is a great time for me to show you that now that the rain stopped and we can actually get around here and drive around. So as you can see, we're moving along. North is kind of back into my right a little bit. I can see that by my compass here. But where I'm looking at on the map, I'm looking at heading up. So where I'm driving, I can see that there's a point of land out here in front of me. So if I see that point of land, I see it coming up, I see it on the map, I can see it in front of me. So that gives me the ability to see that. So if I were to use north up, this is what it looks like. North is always going to be at the top of my map. So instead of me driving towards the top of my map, I'm actually going to be moving kind of to the left side of my map. And again, it's going to kind of slide across the screen like that. That way, again, a lot of guys on big open water, they use this feature. That way they always know where north is. It gives them the ability to see the orientation and what's around them. So another question that I've been getting is, why is my map not spinning? I have a 0.1 on this boat and I have a Precision 9. Both of these are types of heading sensors. So if I have a heading sensor on my boat, my chart knows where I'm facing. So again, let's go ahead and take this back to heading up. You can see the map's not spinning around. It's because my boat knows where I am on the chart by the GPS, and it's not spinning around because it knows exactly where I'm pointing because of the heading sensor or the compass that's built into it on the boat. So as you can see, if I didn't have a heading sensor on here, my map would kind of be doing the little swirlies that you guys see a lot of times. Actually, so the reason you see that is because the boat's not moving. Or if it's moving slow enough that the GPS can't specifically say, I know which way you're heading. So without the heading sensor, once you start moving, your map starts spinning because the GPS is going from point to point to point and says, I know which way I'm heading now. So another question I get asked about is, I've got this blue extension line on my screen and people wonder what that is. If I go into my chart source, you can see I have a heading extension and I've got it turned on. If I turn it off and we go back to the chart, you can see that line is no longer sticking out in front of my boat. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in here and I go to my charts and I'm going to turn my heading extension line back on. Now this feature is really good if I'm offshore fishing and I've got a specific rock pile, brush pile, piece of structure that I'm wanting to fish. This gives me the ability to line up on that and make the perfect cast to that rock pile. Okay, so one of the questions I was asked was about the transparency on my color shading. Let me go ahead and go back in here to my chart options and I go to the shading. And if we go down here, I'm just going to go to my points. So the transparency is at 100%. I can change it. You know, let's go ahead and just go to 10%. So now that I've gone in here and I've turned my transparency down, you can see it's really not showing through. So the transparency, with it turned up at 100%, means it's going to overlay any other color that's sitting in there so that I know that is red. That is, so it's good for some guys. They want to just kind of turn it down so it's not quite as bright and obvious to them. So that's where you change that, is in your transparency settings. Okay guys, well, we appreciate your time this evening. Sorry we got off to a rough start. The weather didn't want to cooperate with us 100%. We got settled in We were getting ready to start, and a storm blew in on us. We kind of ran over for cover. We started shooting from inside the dock. That gave us the ability to go ahead and start this webinar for you guys. We appreciate your time. We hope everybody's staying safe. We hope you're out on the water. Next week, we got a treat for you guys. We wanted to make sure you knew about this. We're going to be on the water with Mr. Edwin Evers. So he's going to be out here on the water, showing you how he uses his equipment, how he has it set up. He's probably going to try and catch some fish for you guys, because that's his favorite thing in the world to do. Don't forget, get out there on the water as soon as it's safe in your area. Take your family out, take your kids out. Send us those pictures with the hashtag AnglersUnite. Thanks for joining us this evening, and we'll see you guys next week.